Okay, we're on our last homework problem example, homework problem 6. I wanted to go over a few things with you. I did give you the actual example. I worked it through in paper. There's just a couple things I wanted to mention. First of all, on homework problem 6, they want you to list out the outstanding checks individually when you're preparing your adjusted cash balance per bank. So make sure you list out the checks individually. But let's just go ahead and look to see which of our checks are outstanding. When we did when we got the bank reconciliation for April, there were 2 checks outstanding, and there was $1,000 in deposits in transit. The adjusted cash balance per bank was $10,400, and that agreed with our book balance, so we were fine. So let's look at what happened the following month. So we have, first, let's look at what checks are outstanding. We have the ones that were outstanding, 150 and 151. Have those been received by the bank in the next month? 150 was, right? We can go ahead and check that off. 151 was not. It's still outstanding. Let's just circle it. How about in our cash payments journal? This is the company's cash payments journal. Let's look to see which of those checks are here. Check 152, yes, for $300. That's fine. Check 153. Notice this. The check amount in our cash payments journal is saying 120. The check amount in the bank statement is saying 200. They tell us within the problem that there's 2 errors in the company's records. This is one of the errors. So we know this is an error. We've got the check. So we've got the check. That's fine. But this is an error. So let's circle these. Maybe even write error. And we can come back to that later and take care of it. But we know this is an error. So let's circle it for error rather than that being there. Okay, so we now know our outstanding checks, and we do show them on the bank reconciliation, the adjusted cash balance per bank. It is check 151, check 154, and 155. So these are outstanding. So we can circle them. Hopefully we won't get them confused with our error check. Okay, so this check we know is an error. We're going to have to do something with this later, right? We need to take care of that. Now let's look at our cash receipts journal. The 1,000, remember that deposit in transit last month? That's been now credited by the bank. That's fine. We have our, look at this. We have on 5/16, we think we deposited $510. We did not, because it shows on 5/17 in the bank deposits $500. This is our second error, right? And we do have the $600 that was received by the bank also. So we only have one deposit in transit for this month. That's the $400. So that's our deposit in transit, the May 31st date for $400. Okay, now we're going to look at other credits we need to take care of. There's a $1,040 credit. It's for the bank taking in our note plus interest. So we took it's our note plus interest minus a collection fee from the bank. The total money was $1,040. So now let's kind of look at what we're going to have to do slightly differently here. I'm going to erase this and make sure you've got it all copied. I'll leave our mistakes up. Try to erase everything else. When we are figuring out, this is going to be a little new, when we're figuring out our cash balance per books, what we're going to have to add to it to get to arrive at our adjusted cash balance. Something new I want to point out, of course, the note collected by the bank, but things we're going to have to subtract. Something new is an error in a recording of the check and an error in a deposit. Our recording of the check, remember the bank shows it as $200. We showed it as $120. That's $80. Error in deposit, we showed it as $510. When the bank showed receipt, they showed it at $500. That's our $10 error. So we have to account for that. So that's why we have subtractions when we're arriving at our adjusted cash balance per books. If you have any questions, please contact me about that. I just want to go through the journal entries. I think the cash, miscellaneous expense, note receivable, interest, receipt revenue, that's very clear. Let me mention one other thing. When you're doing your cash balance per books, this time the note collected by the bank and the interest is all wrapped into one. It's that whole 1,040. I want to mention that. Point that out to you. The next thing, again, we know how to record an NSF check, right? We went through that already. But we have some new things. First of all, accounts payable, $80. Let me explain that to you. Let's say we had an account payable. We owed, we went to, Office Max and charged stuff, and we had that account payable of $200, right? And we thought we paid $120 of the bills, so we debited accounts payable, credited cash, $120, right? But that wasn't quite right, because the bank was recording that as $200, so we actually paid $200, not what we thought, not $120. So what we have to do is we've got to debit accounts payable for another $80 and credit cash for $80. So that's where that first journal entry, accounts payable and cash, comes into play, that $80. That's what it's for. Accounts receivable, again, we made a mistake. We thought this was a check we received from a client, right? We thought it was for $510. It wasn't. It was for $500. So $10 of that is still an accounts receivable does. Same concept as that insufficient funds check. It's that same thought process. So again, we have to account for that. So again, we'd have to go in, debit accounts receivable for the 10 and credit cash for the 10. Hopefully that explains it all. If you do have any questions, please contact me, but hopefully that does it. So have a great week.